Detective Pikachu is not the best Pokemon movie to date, but it's certainly far from the worst. Most pleasantly surprising about it is that I even feel comfortable describing it as a Pokemon movie. Even more than that, getting one which is grounded in the series lore, having been based on the DS game of the same title, but without starring Ash, is a breath of fresh air for the franchise. Going into this movie, I expected a mediocre screenplay that others were gonna praise just for not sucking, while I would hate myself for going to see it on the grounds that it contained Pokemon. But in fact, I turned out to be that guy. Sure, the plot is dumb as hell, but hey, Pokemon! If your main worry about this film is that it might insult your love for the franchise, then you need not be concerned. The most offensive things that happen in this film are that everyone, including Pikachu, says Pokemon, which I can't even complain about because I do it half the time too, it's just easier to say with an American accent. And also there's this one weird scene where a bunch of Bulbasaur are making like Pikmin noises because I guess the gruff voice it had in the show would have taken away from the attempted mystique of the scene, whatever. Script-wise, the dialogue is funny plenty of the time and rolls along with a kind of tongue-in-cheek sarcasm which admirably manages the air of not taking itself seriously but also not giving the impression that it's making fun of the material. The writers would have needed a pretty strong grasp on the franchise to even include a lot of the lore and mechanics woven into the script, and the use of Pokemon abilities to progress the plot is admirable. I'm sure a lot of this was made easier by the story taking directly from the game it's based on, but I also do have to admit that in taking a lot of liberties with that story and cramming it all into the span of a film, there's often a sense of the plot just kind of happening without much need for the characters to propel it, and a lot of contrivance is used to keep it moving. Still, coming away from the movie, the tightness of how later events reshaped my understanding of earlier ones did more to make it feel like a proper mystery film than any revelations on the parts of the characters, of which there are very few. Don't expect a detective movie here. It's an urban adventure and lighthearted conspiracy movie set in the Pokemon world, no more and no less. Characterization gets a better shake than the plot in this story, even in spite of mediocre acting from everyone that isn't Ryan Reynolds. Even if he's pretty wooden though, I have to admire that Justice Smith has legitimately watchable chemistry with a 2-foot CGI mouse, and if nothing else is a perfect casting choice for the personality his character was written with. When he springs to life in bits like the will-be-popular Mr. Mime scene, it's hard not to like him quite a bit. Catherine Newton is, well, she's certainly cute as hell, but her character doesn't really propel the plot or get nearly as much time to develop a sincere chemistry with Justice as Pikachu does. Everyone else was hamming it up to high heaven with mixed results. Animation-wise, I was surprised at how many Pokemon actually showed up on screen in the movie, even if a lot of them certainly got repurposed more than they might have in a 2D film. The aesthetic kinda reminded me of those pictures where people Photoshop anime characters into real-world locations, and I guess that's fine. Sometimes the interactions of the CG models with the persons or environments was kind of janky, but I don't think it'd be enough to distract anyone who isn't prone to looking for that kind of thing. I feel like it'd be overly harsh of me to rag on the animation after giving an 8 out of 10 to Mina Monogatari with its awful CGI crowd shots. The designs themselves were certainly hit or miss for me, but I think there were only a couple of short moments where I retched at how a Pokemon looked, and honestly, having some of them be repulsive kinda worked pretty well with the film's tone. All that technical stuff aside though, what ended up engrossing me in the movie pretty early on was just the fact that they actually set the damn thing in the world of Pokemon. I won't say it's heavy on world building detail or trying to make the setting make sense, which, let's be frank, no iteration of Pokemon has ever done more than on a surface level, but just the fact that it's set in a world where Pokemon are everywhere and people find interacting with them not only normal but encouraged is the best possible thing I could have asked for in a Pokemon live-action movie. Almost no other live-action adaptations of this nature ever go that route. See the Sonic trailer for the perfect example of the opposite done as poorly as I've ever cringed at. And it only took a few seconds into seeing a character whose personal history was tied up in their relationship to Pokemon trying to catch one in a field for me to relate to it and click with the film instantly. At times my investment wavered with the weaknesses in the script, but enough excellent nods to the franchise history, one I can mention without spoiling being the implication that the film's Mewtwo is in fact the same Mewtwo as the one we know and love from the first movie, selling the canonicity of this film to the franchise, and creative uses of Pokemon species kept me relatively engaged all the way up to the kind of batshit insane climax. I left the theater feeling good, even if I couldn't by any stretch describe it as a great movie. Solid 6 out of 10 for me that I didn't regret spending money on at all. By the way, I think Yahtzee's totally on the money that they deliberately made the Sonic design look like shit so that they'd have something to correct about it to make people think that the movie was going to be good, and that the only reason they rushed the trailer out so long before the movie was coming out was so that they could put it in front of the Pikachu trailer and have tons of time for the redemption arc of the film. Calling it right here. History will exonerate me.